Greetings to you again from the land down under. Carl from Oz, Vintage Collector here. This is my new logo. I haven't numbered this episode because I'm not exactly sure when I'm going to post it, but I do have a title for it, and it is called Now for Something Completely Different. Cricket. Vintage cricket. Before I started my baseball collection, I collected vintage cricket started collecting in the late 70s, right through until 3 or 4 years ago. While still collecting cricket, about 8 years ago I started to dabble in vintage baseball, primarily signed balls and bats. But my cricket collection was quite vast and physically very big, a lot of it. Large photographs, large team photographs signed, going back to the turn of last century, like as in 1890s through to the early 20th century. Lots of apparel, lots of equipment, all of the stuff that was relatively accessible in those days. About 7 years ago, I started collecting baseball. I moved to an apartment, and that prevented me from being able to display the cricket, so I put the 95% of the cricket items up for auction early last year, and that gave me, a good cash pool to delve into vintage baseball totally. I shudder to think how much I've spent in the last 12 months to put this together fairly quickly because I am quite old. But I kept two particular items which are very close to my heart. The first one is a signed photograph by Don Bradman, signed Best Wishes to Myself. It was signed about 4 years before he died. His signature was impeccable up until then. It got a little bit blurry towards the end. He died in his 90s. He was a phenomenal cricketer. We in Australia consider him to be the best cricketer to ever play the game. He's right up with the likes of Babe Ruth in baseball, Bobby Jones in golf, Babe Didrikson that Craig referred to in one of his midlifes not long ago. A superb cricketer. Interestingly, on one of his trips to England while still playing, and while Ruth was still playing, there is a very famous photograph of them meeting each other. So that's Don Bradman. The other item I have is a collection of lithographs from the English magazine in its first iteration of Vanity Fair. I had this case especially made when I was in the office supplies industry. I had one of our artisanal bookbinders put this case together, and each of the images inside is separate, unframed, and it is the complete set. I'll put that there. I've put aside 7 of the images to give you an idea of what they're like. They're mainly my favourite images, but that's neither here nor there. By the way, there is a lovely book devoted solely to the cricketers of Vanity Fair. It's, It's called The Cricketers of Vanity Fair, and it's by a guy named March, and it was published about 30 years ago, I think. And it goes into great detail about what characters are considered part of this set, because when you get to them not in their apparel, some are considered part of the set more from being administrators as distinct from being players. Vanity Fair was a very witty, sarcastic magazine, but one of the things they had in every edition, and it was a weekly, ran from 1968 until 1914. In every edition, other than maybe the first handful, they had a personality of the week, and it could be a politician, it could be a doctor, it could be a lawyer, it could be a member of society, it could be sportsmen, jockeys, rowers, steeplechasers, oarsmen, but not as much emphasising sport, much more emphasising people of society, royalty, etc., etc. Even characters from the dominions, the colonies. The first one I'm going to show you is William Gilbert Grace. He was considered the doyen of cricket in England. He's the first cricket image in the set. It was published with an edition in 1877. It's probably considered the second or third most valuable of the set. Great image and very comical in a lot of ways. The next one is one of the only two Australians in the set, and that is George Bonner. And the title on the bottom of that one is simply Australian Cricket. George was a batsman, somewhat, for his time, Reggie Jackson-ish, in that he hit a lot of long hits, but he got out fairly regularly too, but he was still considered a great player. The third one is Frederick Spofford. This one was published in 1878. This would have appeared in the magazine as is. These haven't been trimmed. And Frederick Spofford's title is The Demon Bowler. He was an exceptionally fast bowler for his time. Unlike baseball, where if you deliberately intimidate the batter or throw to hit him, you get the player gets a base, or the pitcher gets thrown out of the game. In cricket, that's still not the case. In cricket, you are allowed to bowl in an intimidatory fashion. Not every ball. You're now only legally allowed to bowl 2 intimidatory balls per over, which is a set of 6 deliveries. So literally a third of your deliveries can be intimidatory. Not so long ago, only 20 or 30 years ago, you could bowl every ball as an intimidatory ball. And in fact, that's what the West Indies did all through the late 80s and 90s when they were super powerful as a Test cricket unit. So that's Frederick Spofford. Interestingly, in later life, he became managing director, I think, of the Lipton Tea Company worldwide, based in England. He emigrated to England after playing cricket for Australia, and I don't think he ever returned to Australia, but was very well off in England. The third one is a rather sad character. Fourth one is a rather sad character. His name is Andrew Stoddart. He took an English team to Australia in the late 19th century. Very sadly, he committed suicide. Not while playing, but not that long after. So that's Spofford done, and that's Mr. Stoddart done. And his title was The Big Hitter, and that was published in 1892. The next one is, without doubt, my favourite image in the set. It was also my partner's favourite image. She had little or no interest in sport and absolutely zero interest in cricket, but she loved this image, and I can understand why. I think it's just a classical Victorian sporting image. I almost consider this like the Honus Wagner that everyone chases. Obviously nowhere near as rare or as valuable as the Wagner, but I just love this image. His name was Lord Hawke, and his title is Yorkshire Cricket. He was an amateur in every sense of the word. He was actually not a particularly good player, but he had plenty of money. He financed the Yorkshire County Cricket Club for a long while. He was very fair with his pro players, but he still continued to keep them in their place. And this is the one where, to give you a bit of an idea of the verbiage that they used in these biographies, opposite each image on the opposite page was a biography. This is his, and I've just highlighted the bits I'm going to read because I just think it's quite amusing how they use their language and how considerably up themselves they were. He was born 32 years ago, and in due course he went to Eton. Where else would he go? Where he began to justify himself of his motto, strike. Better and more wholesomely than ever did labour mongers. Hitting up runs at cricket with increasing vigour, he went up on to Magdalen College at Cambridge and continued to hit them up. Up to Cambridge was because it was north of London, down to Oxford is because it's southwest of London. And he is now about to take another team to India. For he is always full of keen love of the game, and though not so sure a run-getter as are some of his fellows, yet his zeal for and his knowledge of make him an excellent and popular captain. He is a good-looking, pleasant, modest fellow, and though he is not yet a great statesman, he is a good Conservative. He is a light-hearted bachelor. On one of the captions, and I can't remember which player it is, the final bit of it is, not long ago he lost his umbrella. Weird. Okay, the next one is Jack Hobbs. He became Sir Jack Hobbs when he was knighted in the 1950s when Queen Elizabeth came to the throne. He played in the late 19th century and early 20th century, but he was held in such a high esteem that it was considered very appropriate that he be knighted. He lived to a ripe old age. He used to have a dinner, I think, every month at one of the, inverted commas, clubs in England, which was interesting because he wasn't a toff. And he was a great cricketer, great batsman. The last one, I should point out that, because I don't think I've mentioned this earlier, cricket was so riven socially with the structure of society in England that it wasn't until the early 1950s that pros within a team and amateurs within a team stayed at the same hotels or in fact dressed in the same change rooms as each other. The pros had a separate gate to go through out onto the ground and a separate set of dressing rooms to dress in and shower in, and the toffs, the amateurs, had separate change rooms and obviously stayed in much more salubrious accommodation. And to a degree it still sticks a bit in England, although it's not anywhere near as much as it used to. But I think it's fair to say that a lot of Australians particularly still resent the English a bit because they do look down on us. And when you visit England and see the way they live, and when you visit Australia and see the way we live, I know I'm ultra biased, but there's no question where I'd rather live. Climate-wise, attitude-wise, tolerance-wise. I love this country, I really do. Yeah, I've said that about what they were like. And did I? No, I haven't shown you this one. This is the last one, and it's the last one in the set. And it's considered the rarest one, although he was not a particularly good cricketer. It's simply titled The Champion County, and that was because the season before this was printed, and this was printed in 1914, right near the end of the run of Vanity Fair, and by then the circulation had fallen to a trickle, so therefore there were far fewer of these in circulation than some of the earlier ones, or a lot of the earlier ones. I just looked up on one of the auction sites today just to see what this goes for at the moment, and it's a £2,000 item even now, and this as a set and individually are less valuable than they were 10 or 15 years ago. And I think that's primarily because living conditions have changed. People don't tend to live in as larger houses as they used to, so it's very difficult you can imagine if you had 33, if you had the whole set framed, you would need a massive area to display it, and most places just don't have that anymore. Yeah, he wasn't a particularly good player, but he was captain of Kent at the time. And again, Kent is one of what they call the home counties, which are, from memory, Middlesex, Kent, Surrey. They're the three main ones, I think. Maybe Essex, but someone will be able to confirm that. Did I mention before the book, Cricketers of Vanity Fair? It's a great little book. It shows every one of these illustrations, and on the opposite page in the book, it shows the wordage of the original captions, and some of them are really quite amusing. And that's the rarest one in the set. The set this set, just to close off, this set in its current form, should you be able to get it complete, unframed, in the condition these are in, would sell for anywhere between £15,000 and £25,000. 20 years ago, it would have been £25,000 to £35,000. The value of these has dropped, and that's, I guess, because of the way we live in the modern world. That's enough cricket. There probably won't be another one unless demand indicates, but I'd be surprised if it does. But I hope you enjoyed this one, something a little bit different. As I said, I don't know when I'm going to post it. But it will have the title, and now for something completely different. I'll close simply with what I'm now making my closing caption. First of all, this one is done. I would certainly love for you to subscribe if you feel so inclined. But remember, the grade doesn't matter. The cost and price don't matter. Nor does rarity. It's all about eye appeal. Bye for now. See ya. Mango, mango.